Welcome to another episode of Mama Bear Apologetics. I'm Hillary.
And I'm Amy.
And this is yet another one of our tries for doing video for the podcast, because we figure sometimes people like sitting in with us during the talk instead of just listening. So if you're listening through podcasts, then we welcome you. And if you ever want to pop on over to the video and see us talking, it's got some cool little notes at the bottom, sometimes like sharing what verse we're talking about or what point we're making, because Jeremiah, the guy that's been doing it, is awesome. So cool. So we wanted to say special thanks to Papa Bear Jeremiah for doing our video for us.
Absolutely. Plus you get to be nosy and peek in our rooms.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
This part look really, really tiny.
Shove and if everything over there.
I know. I'm like looking at the rest of my desk. I'm like, I'm a liar.
This is Instagram life right here.
Yes, Instagram.
It looks pretty.
Here. Real life is over there. Here. Yeah. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about our last podcast. We talked about linguistic theft, and which was part of the Mama Bear Apologetics book. And today we're going to be talking about another aspect of the Mama Bear Apologetics book, which was the chew and spit method. And so, the podcast after this one is going to be kind of a part two of this one for chew and spit, and that we're going to be talking about after you chew and spit through all these different media, how are you deciding what is okay to watch and what is not okay to watch? And so we're going to be talking about the difference between conviction and God's commandment, because what we found a lot of times is that the Lord convicts us about things, and we assume if he's convicting us about it, then everybody should be convicted about it.
Yes.
That's not necessarily the case all the time. I think that the Lord's pretty clear about what we should watch, or what we should do with our bodies, what we should put into our minds. But at the same time, he says, that we can't just leave the world. We can't get out of the world. So anyway, today we're going to talk about how do we even just analyze some of these media messages? How do we analyze television, music, movies, all that stuff? Did I say
books, all the good stuff your kids are getting into? Yes,
I think I said movies twice. So first off, we're going to talk about what is chew and spit. So Amy, what would you say? The chew and spit method. What is that?
Yeah, I love the chew and spit method because it acknowledges that we're in the world, we can't get out of it, so we have to know how to navigate it. And sometimes that means getting your hands a little dirty at some point. So chewing and spitting is just the ability to take in information, discern which part of that is true, is correct, and to spit out the bad and keep that which is good. Because there are times where people who do not share our worldview and belief system, they say very true things, that they're accurate, and we have to be okay with that and discern between that. And there are times where Christians themselves sometimes mess up a little bit. So we have to use that discernment to decide, what we're taking in is, if it's true, if it's good, keep it. And if it isn't, get rid of it.
Yeah. Like there's been a bunch of books where when I'm having to do research on something that is looking at the con position or whatever the not from a biblical perspective, I'm trying to see what are the critics saying. Then I'll go, and it's like, not like it's a whole book of disagree. There's usually a lot of stuff in there that I agree with. And even sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's a critique about, maybe about Christian culture that I'm like, oh, they've kind of got a point there. And that's something we need to do better on. So it's being able to, learn from every source that we can learn from. And this would be the same thing as when your kids are going to school or going to college, having professors that are going to say things that they agree with and things that they don't agree with. And they need to know that agreeing and disagreeing, you're not safe no matter where you are, even if it's a Christian teacher or if it's a youth group retreat. I mean, there's just been all sorts of heresy that's happened in my life. Where it's like, it's coming from a pastor that it's like, oh, this sounds great. And then he goes in a direction, it's like a guest speaker. And I'm like, I don't think I believe that. That's not what the Bible says. I had one pastor who's a great teacher. And all of a sudden he started telling us to seek out, seek out experiences with angels. And I'm like, that's not, the Bible does not say to do that. We just have to kind of be on our guard, be aware. We're not like, trying to look for the bad in everything, but we need to be aware that we're evaluating everything, which is different than just being like a heresy hunter where you're trying to find everything you disagree with.
I would almost call it the right way to be open-minded, because open-minded, people always say, oh, you need to be open-minded. Open-minded doesn't mean you accept everything as truth. That would be being very foolish.
Yes.
Open-minded means you're willing to consider everything and see if it is truth.
Yeah.
And wasn't it Spurgeon who said, be open-minded, but not so much that your brains fall out? I mean, that's what we're going for here, people. We don't want our brains to spill out on the table, but we do want to be considerate of other people's ideas enough that we're like, okay, let me hear you out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, part of our podcast that we just did not too long ago about disagreeing well, is hearing somebody out, discerning, okay, look, I can affirm here, you're spot on, and then being like, but here, there's some issues.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who it was the quote. It was like, an open mind is open for the same reason that a mouth is open, to close around something good.
Oh,
so it's like you remain open-minded until you find the good that you want, and then you close around that. This idea of being open-minded, where it's like, no, we'll see if the good, we'll put the good and the bad in there, and just like, no, don't do that. So anyways, that is what the chew and spit method is. And so I just want to remind people that there's this idea that we can categorize everything as safe and dangerous. Like, this is Christian, that's not Christian. And as long as we categorize things correctly, then we'll be fine. So I just want to remind you with a couple of different passages that, this whole safe for the whole family. I know that's one of the things, like the old radio station in Dallas where I used to live. And that was their slogan, safe for the whole family.
Yeah, I would see their billboards every now and then.
Yep. And we have this idea that that's what Christian is. It's safe for the whole family. And I'm like, the Bible isn't safe for the whole family if we're talking about. So, there's just certain things that we're not going to see acted out on a felt board in Sunday school. For example, there's a couple of times that the Bible talks about gang rape. And maybe I should have given a warning before, if there's little ears listening here. Sorry, if there's little ears listening. We've got Lot offering up his daughters to basically be raped by all the men of Sodom. We have the guy who offers up his concubine in Judges 19. Yeah. And this actually does happen, that they basically, they rape her till the morning. And when he gets out there, he's not like, oh, you poor thing. He's like, get up, it's time to go home. Yeah, it's like, these are not things you're going to see in Sunday school. Or the one that kind of personally, well, those both bother me. When David and Joshua hamstrung horses while they were in war, not a pleasant thing to look at. So this idea of being safe for the whole family, meaning Christian, we got to get rid of that idea. There are things that are more safe for the whole family that, are pleasant, are things that we don't want to expose our kids to, but we can't make that the litmus test of whether or not something is biblical or not.
Yeah. And it just brings to mind the quote from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe of course he's not safe, but he's good, and referring to Aslan. It's like, it's just important to understand that safe may be a little scary at times, but or good in the sense of, there's a lot of criticism regarding Christian movies and stuff that they don't depict reality. Like there I saw an interview with, I'm not sure who he was, but he's a director who does Christian movies, and he was getting all sorts of flack because he showed these guys that were gangsters, that they were like the mafia kind of gangsters, and they used foul language. And they're like, oh, that shouldn't be in there. That's not a Christian movie. It's like, would these guys not use foul language? Like, oh my gosh. There's some sorts of presenting reality the way that they are. And, maybe if you have little kids and you don't want them exposed to those words, that's one thing. But I think we do have a duty to represent reality the way it is, even if it's unpleasant. And again, just choose when you want to expose your kids to certain realities. Yeah, and age appropriate. Yeah,
age appropriate. So anyway, so how do we chew and spit? It's how do we look at things and know that there's going to be good things in here and there's going to be bad things in there. And we need to be able to separate them, to tell the difference so that we can accept the good, reject the bad. So for all of you who are watching, this is the little hand thing that I do for when we talk about discernment, that discernment is a combination of good and bad. We separate the good from the bad, accept the good, reject the bad. And so I think that's also a great little hand gesture you can do with your kids when you're talking about it. So Amy, what are some of the things that we're talking about when we're chewing and spitting? What are some things that we're looking for?
Things that we're looking for is basically anything that glorifies a worldly worldview, a secular worldview, sort of worldly culture. You'll see this in shows to where, there's drug use and they're doing it for fun. There's no consequences that are really perpetuated. And I think, Hillary, you would maybe agree too, is a lot of shows, they sort of glorify really bad behavior and they don't really show any of the consequences. Oh, I'm just going to go sleeping around, or I'm going to do these drugs and wake up in the morning and go about my job and life is good,
Yeah. I think the little list that we made here is that they're blatantly against the Christian life. And what is, it's promoting, it's glamorizing, it's desensitizing, or it's normalizing to sin.
Yep.
So promoting sin would be like presenting it in a way that this is what you should do.
Yeah. It's a good to do. It's fun. This is just, and it almost repackages that definition of fun. It's fun is going out with your friends and drinking all night. And
I would say that's more glamorizing than the promoting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe they
kind of blend together.
They do kind of blend together.
Yeah.
So the promotion, the glamorizing. The glamorizing would be showing all the fun and none of the consequences. Or it might just be like, oh, they make the headache that they have later. Oh, it's just kind of funny. Oh, funny hangover, stuff like that. If that's presented as just a good thing to do, desensitizing. So this is one of the things we're going to be seeing a lot is if there's something that we have a knee-jerk reaction to of, oh, that's not okay. And they're wanting to basically present it in front of people enough times to where we stop having that knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
That's a desensitizing process. And that's actually done very, very purposefully. My dad
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say we're seeing that more and more within children's cartoons too, especially pertaining to certain themes, that they're just starting to work this stuff in more casually to where it doesn't surprise kids anymore. They almost don't even notice it.
What kind of themes? I think people are wondering.
LGBTQ themes are getting very heavily entrenched. Pretty much anything on Cartoon Network nowadays. I'm fortunate enough that I stay home, so I watch a lot of the cartoons with my kids as I'm like folding laundry, and we're able to pick up on a lot of this stuff and have great discussions. So if you're looking for things for discussions, just put on Cartoon Network. You won't have to wait long. So,
if you want to have, introduce what's going on with just homosexuality and trans and stuff like that. Put on Cartoon Network and you'll have plenty of conversation starters right there. And then the last one would be normalizing things. So there's this kind of process that you go through of desensitizing. And then when something desensitizing means that you're not shocked by it anymore. And so like one of the things that we've seen with that sometimes is language, where they use language so much that you don't even notice it anymore. Like to this day, I don't like things with a lot of language, but for quite a while after John and I were married, it didn't bother me at all. And the reason it didn't bother me is because I used to work with football players.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it's like they would swear so much that it just got to be where it's like my brain kind of filtered it out and I just didn't even hear it anymore. And John would be like, oh my gosh, there's so much language. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't notice.
So funny. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it was a lot of the same way working on the flight line with maintainers and things. I mean, there's a certain type of maintainer. They're a crusty group. So you just sort of get used to it. But then I think once I started having kids, it's all of a sudden the sensitivity meter got heightened and I'm like, oh, wait a second. Things are being said that I'm not liking.
Yep. And I think of, just having a mouth like a sailor, other parts of, other parts of the military, same as well. And I would say the same for college football. But then, so not being shocked at something, that's going to be desensitizing. Normalizing is when you come to expect it. And I think that's kind of the step that we're at in terms of the LGBT agenda is that, it used to be of, oh, what's that? What's going on? And now I'm coming to expect that this is going to be there. And usually the state or the process, after someone's been desensitized and it becomes normal, then they start promoting it. And basically anyone who doesn't believe that is weird now.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's like this cycle. It almost repeats in and of itself, to where now there's things that we say, oh, well, that's just what teens do, or that's just what boys do, and that sort of thing, that we sort of accept it as, oh, this is not only just normal, this is what they should do to be men or to fully embrace the teen lifestyle, the singlehood lifestyle. And it's really recognizing where you've sort of adopted these patterns after the world. We're supposed to, have renewing of the mind so that we no longer conform to the patterns of this world. And sometimes we have to recognize when we've adopted these things, we've been desensitized, we've adopted it as our own, to be able to start pushing back against it.
Yeah. And I'd like to say that there's some movements that were not Christian movements that I think we should say thank you, and we should be embarrassed that we weren't the ones that started this. And I would say that one of them would be feminism. That you look at some of the movies, it's so funny if you watch, because I did. Anyway, there was a class, several classes in college. I had to watch lots of movies from the 40s. And whenever a woman would start getting hysterical, the dude would smack her. And you'll see this in all these old movies. And I'm like, did women just get hysterical all the times and the men just smack them?
Just smack some sense into them.
And of course, then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You're right. And she's having to,
and she still looks gorgeous, even though she got jacked by her guy.
Gorgeous. Yeah, but certain things were, or they were treated just as less than. You look at things like the movie Zoolander has a character that is just so offensive. The guy Maury Ballstein, who's the one who is kind of the head of Maury Ballstein Models. It'll have him walking down the hall and he's like grabbing one girl's butt, and it's kind of a joke about how this is how it used to be before feminists got in there and said, this is not okay.
Yeah.
For the demeaning jokes and oh, boys will be boys and all that stuff. So, we see culture actually coming around and correcting some of these things. And I think we should be ashamed that we as the church, we're not the first ones.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And kind of like the Me Too movement, that we're having so many things that are being uncovered that have gone on in the church, that it took a secular movement for us to say, we're not going to be covering up for abusers anymore. But we're kind of getting off topic there.
Yeah.
So the things that we're looking at, are they promoting? Are they glamorizing? Are they desensitizing? Are they normalizing us to these things? Would be things like drugs, which drugs would include any kind of drinking, gang stuff. I would say that a lot of video games are glamorizing this idea of being in a gang.
Yeah. Or just tribal mentality, especially a lot of the games because I've got a 13-year-old and he's got friends and they're playing all these games, and there's a lot of tribalism within the games.
Yeah. And I used to work with gang kids. So it's like, I know what actually goes on in there, and it's not a good thing. And I had kids that, while I was there, they decided to leave their gang, but they showed up the next day all completely bloody, but with a big smile on their face going, I got jumped out, miss.
Oh God, so, bless their hearts.
I know, they were so sweet. Gossip. I think this is one of those ones that is probably in a lot of girls' movies, and it is like it's completely normal. And this is probably one of the ones that I struggle with. That as girls, we just get together and we talk about everything, and sometimes it's hard to remember when something turns into just kind of discussing the world to oh, this has now slipped into gossip. Foul language, we talked about crude jokes. Like there's certain movies where all it is crude jokes.
That's the whole movie. And it is really starting to infiltrate kind of women. Like before it was like crude jokes, that was considered like a guy thing. It was usually men. Now, yes, it was usually men. Well, now it's actually seen as sort of this female empowerment to where, and you see these in these awful videos that are coming out now of these ladies who are, no, we're going to take back femininity. We're going to be just as sexually aggressive. And it's just, it's gross. Don't do it. Guy or girl, just stop.
This is one that I would say especially be looking for in your children's programming, because there's actually a show that I found out why my parents wouldn't let me watch when I was a kid. And there's a show that my dad said he like if my my nephews were ever at their house, they weren't allowed to watch. It's disrespecting authority. This is one of those things that people would think isn't that big of a deal. But do you remember? Well, you might be too young. You and I are kind of have a little bit of a generation gap. You can't do that on television. was the name of it. But apparently the kids were really disrespectful to authority. And so I didn't understand why we weren't allowed to watch it. But that my dad told me that was why. And then the other one would be SpongeBob. And that SpongeBob's not from when I was a kid. That's going on now. But he's looked at it there's a lot. The episode I remember him talking about was one of the characters was like trying to do the very least amount of work possible at their job. And it was this funny thing. So when you make something funny, you make it acceptable.
Right.
And so being lazy and doing a bad job at work, my dad's like, this is awful. He's like, there's no way the boys are watching this over at our house.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those hard things to avoid, because I've actually heard parents say things like reading books like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, you know, those should not be read to kids because of being disrespectful to authority. I mean, he just does whatever he wants. He's not respectful at all. And so there have to be that balance, because, you know, you do have kiddos who they're the stubborn ones and they are going to, you know, fuss and everything. So it's important to really be speaking into that and helping kids understand, you know, there's the kids' sinful behavior, but then there's willingly being disrespectful every chance you can get and discussing those.
Yeah. And again, that would be kind of going back to if it's accurately portraying reality, then there's something still valuable there, that there are kids like this. There are people like that. But if it's like just in your face the whole time, you can say, this is not something that needs to be modeled. And that doesn't mean I think we shouldn't watch or read Tom
Sawyer. Yeah.
I'm like Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn. I'm like Tuck Finn. Wait, no, that's not it.
Well, yeah, it's those movies that really glorify this sort of anarchist mindset among kids of, oh, this is how you really stick it to your principal, your parents, that sort of thing. It's just, promotes that kid anarchy.
And another one actually that we didn't originally have on our list here is, I think that you need to be looking at which ones are the authority figures, what's the word, depicted as just being stupid.
That's a good point. Yeah, because you'll have some that are, you can tell when you look at them that these are kind of representing the Christian worldview, and oh no, they're the dumb ones, they're the uptight ones, so really pointing those out is important, is what sort of caricatures are being put in here, and differentiating between, okay, what may be true in that situation, but what other is just blown out of proportion to make the whole group look foolish.
Yeah, because I think there's, I mean, with the whole feminism, I said thank you for one thing, but the thing that I don't say thank you for is the fact that if you look at just movies and TV from the past into now, it's turned into the men are these bumbling buffoons who just are as dumb as could possibly be. And the women are the ones that have it all together, that they know what's going on. They boss those men around, and that's supposed to be part of the joke. And no,
a lot of sitcoms are like that.
Yeah, a lot of sitcoms are like that. So are they promoting or glamorizing or desensitizing or normalizing a non-biblical sexual ethic? Yeah. So we kind of talked about that. Is it something
it's starting to creep in? Yeah.
It's creeping into everything right now. And so again, we can't say you can't watch anything that has any of these things, because I mean, basically they're not going to be able to watch anything.
They won't be able to leave the house because they're going to see it at Walmart. They're going to see it at Target.
Yeah, billboards. There's no escaping it. So they need to know how to recognize it and to say that is not what the Bible teaches. Or a negative view of Christian virtues. Like sometimes honesty or self-control is one of the ones actually that I see being not demonized, but demeaned a lot. It's this idea that going for your dreams and going for your goals and just, not letting other people put you in a box. And so this idea of self-control is a weakness instead of a strength. And that's concerning to me.
Yeah. And then for older movies, it's like virgins are the punchline. I mean, seriously, if you haven't slept with anybody, you're ridiculous. And they portray you as such. So yeah, you'll see that a lot, especially in the more adult comedies.
Yep. Yeah. Like 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah. Yep. There was another one where it was like a teen one. And it was this kid and he was homeschooled and he was a virgin. He was just,
Yeah.
Bad portrayal.
Bad portrayal. Yeah, any kind of where they're resisting sin, that's always going to be the nerd. But you know what? That's in some ways, that's how real life is that when you are resisting sin and when you are resisting going with the crowd, you're going to be called all sorts of names. So you need to be prepared for it.
You're inauthentic if you don't give in.
Yes. Lying. There's a particular movie that drove me nuts with the amount of lying that was in there, and the lying was not portrayed as bad. And that was the movie Sing. Sing is the one that has all those cartoon
all the
animals.
Cute little animals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you look at that movie, the main character lies his way through every single situation.
That's right. Yes.
And
he's like a swindler.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's trying to be true to his art. That's what we're going to say. What was he valuing here? He's valuing his art above everything else. And if something looks like it's going to take away his ability to do his art, then that's a bad thing. And even the characters within there that are sneaking away to go to this singing competition, they're having to lie to their families. One of the characters, I think, is trying to be responsible. And the family comes down on that, and the mother that's taking care of all the children. Granted, she's taking care of like 30 of them or something like that. It was some insane number of children. And that was portrayed as like the life that where she just gave up. Instead of doing something for herself, and so it really demeaned motherhood as not being a valuable option or a viable option, or just at least it wasn't a very glamorous option, which, let's face it, a lot of times it's not, but it didn't show any value to that. Yeah. Here's a good one. Emotional reasoning. If you can get your kids to spot emotional reasoning, where someone makes that decision just because they're following their heart, but it's going to have all sorts of horrible consequences. So let me give a great example of one that hacked me off so badly. There was recently, it was the second to last, I think, of the Star Wars movies.
Rogue One?
I believe so.
Not the one where she died in the Death Star, like trying to get the Death Star plans, right?
Which is the one where the guy was about to sacrifice himself in order to save all the people, and she takes her star flyer and crashes him.
I didn't see that one.
Okay, anyway, it's like this guy was about to sacrifice for his friends. It's like they had the bad guys that were coming, and he was going to take his star flyer and go into the middle. And basically blow up the machine, the machine. It's a weapon, that they had. And there's this girl, oh my gosh, I was like, oh my gosh, you just set women back their ears, that takes her little star flyer thing over and crashes into him so that he can't save everybody. And she's like, I just realized, there's nothing worth fighting for if I don't have you. And, she kisses him and stuff. And I'm sitting there just cringing that, the idea of saving one person over, basically you just, in the real world, you would have just killed all your friends back there because you wanted to have this one guy that you have a crush on. That would be emotional reasoning. And it was actually almost celebrated because everything worked out for the best, but at the same time, it downplayed the idea of sacrifice, of someone sacrificing for others. And it was like, that was a bad thing. And then finally, this one we've talked about, elevating one gender over another. How are some ways that you've seen that, Amy?
Oh, the whole, and a lot of it plays into the feminism, but you see it whenever there is, the female, and she's got to stick it to all the guys to prove it's not necessarily that we can be equal. It's that I'm better. It's that whole song of anything you can do, I can do better. Whenever that's not a healthy mindset. So it isn't, whenever something isn't about, we're equally valuable and capable. If it's, I want to prove that I'm better than you, or that this one gender is better than the other, we've got some problems here.
Yeah. And we'll see some of this. I think there were some legitimate stuff, kind of like in the old days, that kind of portrayed men like they were the sane ones. They were the ones that, had the good ideas and that could, maintain their composure in difficult situations, and all the women were just hysterical arm candy. And that would slow you down. I think some of the Indiana Jones things, I think the Temple of Doom Indiana Jones just drives me nuts because there's nothing redeeming about that woman. And I'm like, why does he want to be with her? She's so annoying.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, these are some of the things that as you're chewing and spitting, as you're going through music and movies and stuff like that, to be paying attention to. Yeah. And so how do you take this? How do you teach your kids to do this?
So we've got questions that you can ask with your kiddos. And, again, we want to preface this. We covered a lot of things here. Mm-hmm. And it probably sounds like we're saying, well, you can't watch anything because all movies have this stuff. And that's not what we're saying. Is no. We're not wanting you to pull away from everything. We're wanting you to be able to recognize things and be able to have discussions, be able to interact and discuss these things. Mm-hmm. So a few of the questions that Hillary and I were coming up with this is, first off, recognizing whatever you're viewing, whether it's a book, music, movie, TV show, is checking what the genre is. Mm-hmm. Because I love how Hillary pointed out, she said comedies, that one's a little bit harder to work with because usually they're trying to make fun of everything. So you can't just be like, oh, well, they're just blowing this out of proportion. It's a comedy. It's meant to do those sorts of things. Now, of course, you can still dissect it a bit, but it's important to understand the genre of what is being presented, because that'll help you understand, okay, where are they coming from?
Yeah. And especially if you're looking for something like, does this accurately portray reality? A lot of comedies don't, or they, I like what, Seinfeld a lot of times portrayed kind of a hyper version of reality that made things fun, but also looking at what is it they're laughing at? Because I would say two shows from the 90s that I remember that they laughed at the most was just sex. Yeah. They made sex a punchline. Yes. And I think that was a process of basically desensitizing to any kind of promiscuity, really. It's like both Seinfeld and Friends desensitized us to promiscuity, to where it wasn't just the slutty girl. It was all.
It was everybody.
It was anybody you'd be friends with. They could be totally normal and still have this worldview, and they made it a funny thing.
Yeah, like this is just what you do. This is, as an adult, this is what you do. You sleep around and you look forward to the weekend so you could find somebody else to sleep around with. So.
Yeah, like the number of girls that Joey would get was funny. The time when Phoebe slept with the guy that she thought was Ralph Lauren, and it turns out he was the copy guy, they made that funny. And so I think you can see what's the message that's being presented by looking at what is it do they think is funny.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that ties into our next question is, what is the main message being presented? What are they actually trying to communicate? And sometimes you have to break that down a little bit of what are they trying to communicate, but what are they actually saying about these issues? It's going that one step deeper of, saying that sex is funny. Well, what they're actually communicating is what you do with your body doesn't matter. Who you sleep with doesn't matter. So it's almost, you got to take it that next step deeper to figure out, okay, what are they trying to gloss over, but what are they smuggling in as well? What worldview questions are they smuggling in?
Yeah. And I would say that, like the movie Sing that I was talking about, that the main message from that movie is that you be true to your art, no matter what it does to your family, no matter what it does to your finances, no matter who you have to lie to, no matter what damage it causes anywhere else, you are true to your art.
And if you have to give it up, then that's a bad thing.
Yeah. If you have to give it up, that's basically, never give up.
So the next one is, what values are being elevated, glamorized, portrayed favorably? So again, we've discussed about these as, what are they saying is the good thing? And is that actually a good thing? How can this go wrong? What is this actually saying? These are just great dialogue questions to have with your kids, especially your older ones who, getting into the teenage years, the preteen years for girls, because they develop a little quicker than the boys do, is helping them understand what they're trying to chase after, because trying to be attractive and well-liked and everything, you'd be surprised the amount of things you'll compromise and you don't quite realize it. Yeah. So if you can help your kids start thinking this way, it'll save them some heartache.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we talk about what values are being elevated, glamorized, and portrayed favorably, but also on the flip side, which values are being demeaned, ridiculed, or portrayed unfavorably. Right. Well, are there words that are being linguistically thefted where, they mean one thing, but you're like, I don't think that means what they think it means. So just having, I think on our, did we talk about the Buzzword board?
I don't know that we did. And if we did, refreshers are always good. So
we did some. Oh, I know where I did. I talked about it in the Mama Bear study guide. So anyway, I'll just give you a sneak peek to the study guide. Is keeping a buzzword board where you know that these are some of the words, things like evil or intolerant or bigot or some other ones.
Good, bad. I mean, pretty much anything that has to deal with morality or ethics. These words are just getting repackaged. You always hear, "Oh, they were injustice. A good person." Yeah. Yes,
all that stuff. So, what are they meaning by these words? What is the morality being presented? Like, it's like they have kind of a world that they've created that tells you what's good and what's bad. So, what is that world? What morality is being presented? Right. And sometimes you can tell that by which actions are being punished and which ones are being rewarded.
Yeah. Or even which ones are being justified and how they're being justified. Oh, it was okay for him to do this because of here. Oh, wait a second. Now we're sneaking in alternative worldviews. Yeah. Which ones are those? It's important to be able to recognize.
And Hollywood actually used to help with this. Hollywood used to actually have standards like the movie It's a Wonderful Life created a huge ruckus because it didn't show Potter getting it stuck to him. It's like Potter didn't go down. He got away with what he did.
And I didn't know that made a
because it's like the bad guy always you always had to have resolution. The bad guy would get what he deserved in the end. If someone was having sex outside of marriage, you saw some consequences, or you just didn't show it. Right. And it was like it actually enforced a Judeo-Christian morality, and they do not do that anymore. It's like when they took those away, it was almost like everybody was like, "Woohoo! Now we can show all this stuff."
Yeah.
Not being punished, because a lot of times in the real world, that's the case. It's not punished.
Right.
If this sounded like a lot of things to remember, we're aware of that. So for all of our $10 patrons, you are going to get nice little printables of these things. So maybe it might be the things to watch out for when you're watching a movie, and you can put that next to the television, or the questions to ask. You can keep that in your car, after y'all have gone to a movie, or printing out the song lyrics. So if your son or daughter has a band that they really like, so print out some of those song lyrics and ask these same questions. So we're going to have something nice and pretty that you can print out instead of having to remember all this. But that is for our $10 Patreons. And so you can go to patreon.com/Mama Bear Apologetics to be able to get that. Sign up for the $10 a month Patreon, and you can get lots of little goodies like this that we'll start giving out.
Oh yeah. And it's so handy to have, especially when you start talking about these issues with your kids, because it does stick in their heads and they are going to pick it out. I've noticed it with my guys that they will be watching movies and they're like, wait a second. And it's fun because we get to like give them high fives and be like, way to go, buddy. And it just reinforces that good critical thinking that we want our kids to be doing.
Yeah. I can't remember which Mama Bear was it, but her kid will literally yell out in the theater, bad worldview.
Oh, nice. I'm like, maybe not so nice to the people next to them, but
I'm like, if I were in a movie theater and I heard that, I would be like, I want to go shake that mom's hand afterwards. Yeah. So
I'm going to buy you popcorn.
There's lots of ways to practice doing this with your kids, like you said. And one of my kind of recommendations for going to see a movie, and this is something that as long as your kids are young enough to not really know how driving works. I didn't know. My dad was always just magical because he always knew how to get places. I didn't know about these MapsGo things before. But pick a movie theater that's a little further from your house. And because you have a captive audience on the way back from that movie, where you can start asking these questions. And a lot of times, especially for boys who have a harder time having these deep conversations eye to eye, that from front seat to back seat, it makes it actually a lot easier, and they're more willing to join in.
Absolutely. Cartoons, sit down and watch them with your kids, because I'm telling you, the messages that are coming in are so fast that if you aren't there watching it with them, you will miss it. They won't, but you will. So sit there and watch it with your kiddos. It's really important.
Yep. So I hope this discussion was helpful and not overwhelming. It's like you don't have to do all of these things, but if this gave you a couple tips that are going to help you really talk about media and music and books and stuff like that with your kids, then that was the purpose of that. So Amy, you want to pray us out, babe?
Absolutely. Father, we are so grateful that we can come together and just sort of recharge our batteries, Lord, not just batteries in faith, but to be able to recognize what messages are creeping into to our TVs, music, books. I mean, it's everywhere. And if we can't recognize it, Lord, we can't defend against it. So I pray that you will encourage these parents, Lord, help them to be aware of what's being spoken of, help them not to be afraid of it and go off the deep end in the sense that they're just thinking they got to shut out everything, but that they actually train their kids to be able to wrestle with these issues, to understand them, to be able to interact with them, Father, so that they can be effective in ministering in the kingdom. Thank you so much for this time that you've given us. In your holy name, amen.